All right, welcome back, everybody. We are back again. And when I say we, I mean Hillary and I. There she is. Gotta use the new sound effect feature. So anyway, this weekend, we're both very tired. It was a long weekend. I had to ref 9 hockey games since Wednesday. 7 of them in the last 2 days. And Hillary was actually cross-country skiing. Is that correct?
It was correct. This weekend was the Winter Carnival. So it was just kind of go, go, go. There were lots of activities, but it was a fun weekend. On Friday night, I went to a dinner up on the mountain, which is kind of cool. We do have night skiing some nights, but that is only one lift that they have open, and it's not a very high one. So sometimes I think they've stopped it for like 3 years, but this year they started it again, and they open up chair one, so you can go all the way up to the summit and then eat dinner up there, and then you could either ski down or download on the lift. And I went with a friend who is not very good at skiing, and so we did not ski down, but that was fun. And then Saturday was the parade and the penguin plunge and winter carnival activities all day. So it was busy in town. And then, today was kind of the end of things. I went cross country skiing, and Will's just been doing hockey stuff all weekend. So we've just had a lot of activity, but it's been fun activity.
Talk to me about, I've been up to I don't ski much, but I've been up to the Summit House, obviously. And it seems like they just have kind of, I don't want to make it sound bad, but like cafeteria food, like hamburgers, hot dogs, chips. When you went up for that dinner, was it like an actual dinner, like nice, or was it burgers and hot dogs?
No, I actually would have been fine with it if it was burgers and hot dogs. We were kind of talking about that. Like, just stick with the normal menu. Like, French fries are fine. You've got it down. But no, they turn it into like kind of an event, So I think that they've changed it every year that they've done it. But it was Italian food. So, I mean, it's not like the best meal I've ever had, but it was good. They had like a buffet set up. They had white tablecloths on all the tables and flowers. And I mean, it's just, an excuse to go up there at nighttime.
And how do you, I know I've never been up night skiing, but I can see from town, you can see the lights. Isn't that kind of all over on chair 2?
Yeah, there are no lights on chair 1.
Well, so how do you ski down from the summit then?
Moonlight.
So it's light enough so you're not slamming into trees, is what you're saying?
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that they keep everybody, to stay like on groomed runs. I don't think they're letting them get too crazy.
Did most people ski down, or were they like you and rode the chair back down?
It was kind of half and half. I don't know. My friend was really embarrassed, and she said that we were going to be the only people who weren't skiing, and that was definitely not the case. It was definitely a mix of both.
Well, obviously nobody on here knows who your friend is, but I do, and you need to let her know that I'm very disappointed that she didn't, ski one run down the hill.
Well, we were going to, but then we read in the email that they sent out, they said that they recommend that if you decide to ski down, you're like an advanced intermediate skier. And so when she saw that, she was just like, oh, absolutely not.
She decided she was not advanced.
She did. So, yeah.
Well, good deal. Well, everybody, thanks for coming on, and go ahead and ask your questions. We're not getting a lot in yet, so you're going to make Hillary have to come up with stories to tell, which will be very interesting. As you can see, she's got plenty of them. All right. Well, then I might as well get into the one thing I brought. So we get a lot of questions about people, and I have a question for you guys, if any of you are the ones that have emailed us. People having they always say, oh, I want to come up to Montana and homestead. And I don't know if people understand what that means. I have a document here that I pulled up, and we can send it to everybody if you want it. It's 4 pages, and it's from it's from Montana State in Bozeman, and it goes over all the rules on homesteading in Montana. And it's, from what I gather, I've never dealt with this. Like with a client, we have a lot of people ask about it, but I think that people seem to think that homesteading is, or they're using it as a term like, living off the grid, living off the land. But the technical homesteading term is actually, it's like when you set up a corporation, is how I'm equating this, to protect your assets. The homesteading, again, this chart or this article that I found, goes through all the different ways to use it, how much you can protect your property with. Basically, I have it over here too that I can see a little bit better. It protects your personal property from creditors going after your property up to like $350,000, and then it increases each year. And I don't know if there's a cap. I'd have to read this a little closer. But basically, it doesn't, it only works the way I read it if you own your property free and clear, and your property isn't worth more than $350,000. So I'm not really sure what the benefit is. Maybe if there's a lawyer on here, or I can talk to my friend who's a lawyer, and just see, why people do this. And because it says right in here on the 3rd page, let me find it here. It just talks about what are the circumstances when a Montana homestead declaration does not protect equity in a home from creditors. And it's basically, if you don't have it paid off and you still have a mortgage on it, then the bank can still foreclose. It's not, they still own the first lien on it. Also, if you are homesteading and you go out and, charge a bunch of things at the hardware store, Home Depot, wherever, and then you don't pay, and they can still put a lien on your property, even if you have this homestead exemption. So if anybody wants this, email us. I'll put our banner down at the bottom here with our contact info. Oops, that's the wrong one. And if you guys want us to send you this, we will. But yeah, I think a lot of people just think, or they're confusing homesteading or calling homesteading just living off the grid, which is different from the article I was just representing. So Dwayne says, so homesteading isn't like what the early settlers did, the pioneer days. It's a different thing. Yeah, I mean, it's illegal. Again, I'm happy to send you this document. I think people use that term. They use it for both things, and they're not really sure how it exactly works. So anyway, again, happy to send it out to anybody that wants to see it. And it's something you should talk to your lawyer about if you are buying property up here. And, living off the grid might just be the term people are using for homesteading. So I will quit rambling about that, because as you can tell, I am no expert on it, but the research I did kind of says what I just talked about.
It is interesting because we do get a lot of people saying that that's what they want to do.
I have a feeling that a lot of people watch, Yellowstone and other shows, and they just fantasize about living off the land and off the grid, and that's what they're calling homesteading, when
Agree.
actuality it's an actual legal thing that Hillary's future husband could probably talk more about than or better than we are.
Yes.
Are you going to throw any questions up, or you want me to do everything?
Um, well, we don't really have many yet. We've got some greetings. Hello, everyone. Dwayne is never go skiing at night. It is very fun. You should do it if you get the chance. What are the best skiing places in Montana? I don't know. We have a lot. I've not been to all of them. Obviously, here we have Whitefish Mountain Resort. We've got Snow Bowl, which is in Missoula. There
I got the
is,
lakeside one.
yeah, Blacktail, which I've been to, which is fun. But then obviously there's, Big Sky. You can ski in Bozeman, Showdown, Lost Trail. There's one like right on the Montana-Idaho border. There are just several. So I don't know what my favorite is. Probably just our mountain. I haven't been to all of them, like I said, but there are a lot of places to ski here.
Blacktail is not the one here in Whitefish is much bigger than Blacktail is in Lakeside. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Hillary, but I think Blacktail is only open on weekends. Is that right?
I don't think so.
Oh, it used to be only on weekends. Again, I'm not the ski expert.
Yeah, no, they're open. Not just on the weekends.
Oh.
But it is smaller. Will, really appreciate your driving towns around lakes. Any plans to take us on another drive?
Well, that's a good question for Hillary. Yeah, I'll do more of those. I've kind of covered. I guess I can re-explore, do some repeat videos, because I've kind of driven everywhere there is to drive around this part of the state. And I'm not sure I'm going to drive 12 hours to the other side of the state to do videos on like Sydney and the towns on the North Dakota border, unless I have a reason to go out there, which at the moment I do not. But yeah, Montana is a huge state. Oh, and that, why aren't we talking about Montana made the big news, the national news last week with the little balloon sighting around Montana.
Oh, yeah. Because there's nothing to say about it. It was over Billings.
Well, they were over the Air Force Base there in Great Falls.
Oh, yeah.
Which is about 3.5 hours, 4 hours from here.
Yeah.
It's on the other side of the mountains. It's over on the wide open, windy part of the state. So I'm not sure how that balloon stayed in one spot for very long. It's so windy over there. You'd think it would have been in, on the East Coast in about 5 minutes, but fun times for Montana. It's always good to make the national news.
Oh, yes. Matt says, looking for a young family for 5+ acres between Big Fork and Columbia Falls where we could have animals. What areas should we be looking at? Would stream or water be an option?
It's kind of interesting. Yes, all of that is that's a big stretch between Columbia Falls and Big Fork. I'm going from north to south. From Columbia Falls down to, I used to live over there. I used to live about 6 miles south of Columbia Falls, right along the mountains on that side of the valley. And then it's weird because there's no streams or anything that come out of the mountain there. They all kind of, I've been told the runoff goes underground. and then pops out wherever in different little sloughs or right into the Flathead River. But then once you get further south from, we call it Woodies, there's a turnoff that comes out of Kalispell, and then that goes south to Big Fork. There's a subdivision called Mini Lakes that, hence the name. There's a bunch of lakes in there, but they're all really small. They're more like ponds, and some of them don't even keep water in them year round. So it's a little bit of a, some of the lakes are really nice and decent size, but most of them they're tiny. There are a couple of creeks that come out. There's Lake Blaine is over there, and I toured a house one time that had this kind of roaring stream right through the yard that went down into Lake Blaine. I can't think of, and then you got Echo Lake down there as well before you get to Big Fork. So yeah, I mean, water is an option. But that whole corridor between Big Fork and Columbia Falls, I would look all the way up and down that. In my opinion, that's the prettiest part of the valley, the east side, because the mountains are just right in your face, and the views you get over there are awesome. It's just that's always been my favorite side of the valley. Do you have any input, Hillary?
I don't. If you want to send us an email, we can send you a link to what is available kind of in that stretch right now to help you kind of start your search, and then we can go from there. But that is definitely a beautiful area. Will says that all the time. It's his favorite. It is really beautiful. Just the mountains are like right there.
And that, speaking of links, that brings us to another public service announcement. So all of you guys that are we've sent you a link to our MLS. We are our MLS, not Hillary and I. We have no choice in the matter. But it's a good thing. They are switching to a different server, I guess you'd call it. And so we're going to have to resend out for everybody that has a link. Now you have to opt in. So we'll send you an email. There's nothing you guys have to do. We will be sending an email here in the next week or so, because the switchover happens on the 14th. And like I said, everyone has to opt in. You can also opt in to get your, if you're set up on an auto email where you get, a five acre lots for, whatever, or a house that has 4 bedrooms in Big Fork, whatever automatic email we've set you up on, you can also get those alerts now on your text. But you have to opt in for that as well, is the way I understand it. So anyway, we'll be sending all that out. And if you have any questions, email us, we can help out. But hopefully it will go smoothly, because we have a whole bunch of people that are getting links and have access to our MLS. What else do you have?
KDUB starting to see a few substantial home price drops.
Yeah, there's some. Again, there's a lot of people that are still thinking it's a year ago, because even now, at this point, the prices were still pretty high a year ago, and they were still getting buyers at those prices. It didn't really start slowing down until, if I remember right, about May, seems like, last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, the people that you're seeing the big home or the big price drops right now, they're the ones that have had their place listed all winter so far, and they realize that they're not going to get the crazy price that they would have a year ago. But I still think, well, I shouldn't say I still think, Hillary can verify this. There's still a lot of demand up here. A lot of people that have been waiting in the wings, and when something's priced decently, it still sells pretty quickly.
For sure. I don't think the things that we're seeing be priced now are because they were, either way overpriced to begin with, or yeah, it's been sitting and the seller wants to move it quickly. But I don't think that we are going to see just a widespread major drop in prices. But yes.
Looks like we have a Super Bowl conversation happening in the comments.
Is the seller in Montana required to disclose anything like property history of flooding, boundary line disputes, water right disputes, etc.? If no, then how should a buyer be best prepared?
The answer is definitely yes, Terry. You have to disclose anything that's considered an adverse material fact, which the definition of that is something that would affect the value of the home. So yes, if it's flooded or if it has flooded in the past, obviously you have to disclose that. Yeah, water rights disputes, anything. What we see a lot of is like if there was mold, like when you bought the house, they found mold, but then they had it remediated, and then you go to sell the house, you have to disclose that just so people are aware, and they can inspect it again and make sure that it hasn't come back. Anything that affects the value of the house, you have to disclose. If there was a fire, if there was, I don't know, I'm drawing a blank here on things that have happened. But yeah, I'm rambling. Yes, you have to disclose all that. And if they obviously, when we go in to list a house, we tell the seller this and we warn the seller that, you can get in a lawsuit if you don't disclose things, but they can, how are we supposed to know if they're not telling us something? So there's always that chance. That's why you need a good inspector to find these things. And then, make sure you know what's going on. But yes, people disclose. There's actually a form called the owner's property disclosure that sellers fill out. A lot of times they leave it blank, which we obviously tell them not to, but that is a state form that is part of the contract that we have everyone sign and review, and buyers and sellers. So you do have some protection. One thing I'm going to throw in this story just because I like to talk, but it's the adverse material fact, like I said, something that would affect the value of a home. Well, when it comes to, and I've done this on Halloween, around Halloween, I always do this for a video, but in Montana, you don't have to disclose if there was a death in the house unless the house caused it. Like if someone fell off a balcony because the railing broke, or, who knows what could have happened. But I can make a strong argument that a lot of people, it's a long story. I'm not going to tell this whole story, but I had a house that there was a murder in that we didn't find out until a couple days before closing because nobody told us about it, because in Montana, you don't have to. But you can't tell me that if that was on the listing description that, oh, guess what? There was a murder in the master bedroom of this house, that's not going to affect the value. So I don't know. It's the government and the rules. And anyway, so I will stop rambling.
Thank you for that journey that you just took us on. Do you see, or did you see that the Missoula airport is now second behind Bozeman, and then Glacier, and then Billings? Like behind it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what number would that be?
I don't know. Just general busyness.
I mean, all the airports in Montana are getting a lot busier because everyone wants to come here. So
they are indeed.
It's not a big shocker. I know that, well, obviously they're, well, maybe not obviously to you guys, but to us, obviously we've taken flights recently, and they're redoing or they're adding on to our local airport here, the Glacier Park International, and it's kind of a mess right now. Getting in
It's a
and
hot
out.
mess.
You have to. Well, when we flew out for our trip down south a few months ago, it was the day of the first snow, or the morning of the very first snow, and it was this real wet, heavy snow, and it was windy, and you have to walk outside now and like walk upstairs to get on the plane. There's no jetways because they've got everything torn up, so that was kind of a nightmare. But hopefully, I don't know, your fiance just flew out. Is that still the same, or if they have some sort of jetway now?
No, that's still the same. It's horrible. It's been like that for a really long time too.
Yeah, it's handy
But
right over winter to have to walk outside for all this, but
right. Well, and that's when we're getting on planes.
yeah.
So inconvenient. How is the demand for new construction homes? I would say there's a ton of demand for new construction homes.
Yeah, well, I don't know if ton is the right word. There's still demand. I know I've talked to a couple guys and it's slowed down a bit, and it's just because of the interest rates. But now that they've come back a little bit from the high a month or so ago, people are realizing that this is kind of the new normal, and you're not going to get the 3% interest rate anytime soon. So to be waiting around for that is kind of silly. So, yeah, there's still demand. It's not as high as it was, but there's still definitely demand, and they're still building new homes all over the valley.
Yeah.
What else do we have here?
I don't think I know a good answer to this, but if you want to visit hot springs, but it's hard to find semi-truck parking. Any ideas of good places?
I haven't spent a whole lot of time in the town of Hot Springs, but I'm assuming, I mean, Hot Springs. Have you ever been there, Hillary, like in the town?
I'm trying to think if I have. I think I've just like driven through.
Well, when she says driven through, there's a highway that takes you
But I
kind of
don't even think I've driven through the actual town. I don't know.
no, because the town is about a mile or so off the highway, and the
Yeah.
town is tiny. There's a couple little old hotels and hot springs, ironically enough, in town. Um, but you could probably park on the roads right there in town. Might be hard turning around, but I don't know. Yeah, you'd have to explore. I don't know if you are in the area much, but maybe drive over there in a car and see what you can do with the semi.
Yeah.
Sorry, we aren't of more help on the hot springs. We will not be getting hired by the Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Seriously. Say hey kid, Glacier National Park is a real gem in Montana. As a first-time visitor to Glacier, is it best to stay outside or inside the park? This should be a good question for Hillary.
He doesn't want to listen to me anymore.
I hope
So
they
go ahead, Hillary, answer away.
Well, you actually might have some good insight into this, as I have never really stayed in the park.
Well, you've camped there.
I've camped there, but just generally when I'm a visitor, I'm just going for the day and then leaving. I mean, I think it would be great to stay in the park if you're able to. I think, it's just kind of hard to get that planned and scheduled for a lot of people because things book up so quickly. But the good news is that if you're not able to stay in the park, it's definitely not a deal breaker because you can stay super close and still make it in, and get everything done that you want to accomplish while you're there. So I don't know. I guess I would say that it's kind of just more of a personal preference. I don't know that one is definitely better than the other. What do you think, Will?
Well, I would hammer home the point that if you are wanting to stay in one of the chalets, you need to get
Good
on it
luck.
like now for, you know, way in the future, or my wife is the queen of getting in on cancellations because she'll like randomly check the sites almost every day. And that's what you have to do because these places, especially the one like over at Mini Glacier, which is our favorite, I would argue that's one of the most beautiful places on the planet. And it's right here in good old Montana. And there's a awesome lodge that sits right there. But yeah, she gets in on the cancellations. You can also get rooms at like Granite Park Chalet and Sperry Chalet that you have to hike to. You can't drive to them. So like Hillary was saying, if you're not up for hiking, then those are probably out. But again, those are tough. They don't have a ton of rooms in those two. So that makes it even harder to get in.
And if you're coming for a visit to Glacier, I mean, that's just like one hike, you know? So, I mean, we've done that because, you know, we live here. So it's like we can just go and do that hike and stay there for one night, but then we can go back and do the next hike. We want to do that next weekend. So I don't know. It just depends on what you're trying to squeeze in, like how many hikes. I don't know if you're planning a trip to Glacier, if you want to just spend like one night. And that, I mean, I don't know, but yeah, if you are wanting to get something in the park, that is definitely the takeaway to start planning it like now. But if you can't get anything booked because it is really hard, then it's still worth it to come.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Hillary, but if you want to stay inside the park boundaries and not hike to the place you're staying, basically there's a couple hotels in Apgar, which is on the west entrance on Lake McDonald. And then you have Lake McDonald Lodge.
Yep.
And then you have, Mini Glacier you can drive to. That's over on the east side of the park. And then East Glacier Lodge, I guess, is technically in the park-ish. It's kind of right on the edge of the park. You don't have to go through a gate to get to that one. But other than that, that's it. Unless I'm forgetting.
I mean, there are like cabins, like there are the Swift Current cabins. But again, it's just really hard to get all this stuff booked. So yeah, I don't know. Hopefully I don't really know if that answered your question or it's helpful at all, but.
God, what do you have next?
Hillary should be happy with Montana football coach now.
Nebraska football coach.
Oh, what did I say, Montana?
No.
Yeah, GBR.
Are they going to win more than 3 games this year is the question.
It's our year. What are the differences and comparisons between Big Fork, Whitefish, Columbia Falls?
This one's all you.
Well, they're all quite different. So I guess I would say that the thing that's going to set Big Fork apart the most is that it is more of a summer destination. It's right on Flathead Lake. So it's hopping in the summertime and it's very busy and there are a ton of people there for the 4th of July. And then it gets very quiet in the winter. They do, decorate for Christmas. It turns into a little Christmas village. And I mean, there are still people there full time, but it kind of feels like it shuts down a little bit. It just gets a lot more quiet in the wintertime, whereas Whitefish and Columbia Falls have people there year round. But Big Fork has Flathead Lake, and then Whitefish has obviously the ski resort. We also have Whitefish Lake, but it is quite a bit smaller than Flathead Lake. And then, excuse me, Columbia Falls is a little bit outside of Whitefish, kind of on your way going to like West Glacier. And I think that in the past, it was a place that a lot of people moved to when prices in Whitefish were too high. And I think since COVID, Prices have really started to raise there as well, and a lot more people have moved there, and it's gotten a lot busier. But I think the main differences are just kind of the attractions that draw people, I guess. I mean, I don't know. We're all kind of in this valley next to the park, but I would say Big Fork, summer. Whitefish is kind of year round because we've got the lake, we've got the mountain, but it's a little bit more expensive than like Columbia Falls, which is kind of in the middle, but a little bit more on the outskirts.
Good job.
Anything to add, William?
I've got nothing.
Can tiny homes be built on private, undeveloped land, or are there restrictions for minimum sized structures? I mean, this would just depend on the covenants, I'm assuming.
Covenants and the zoning. So we kind of hit on this every video. People ask similar questions, and you just have to make sure if you're buying land that you can do this. If it's in a subdivision, the covenants may not allow it. If it's out in the county and just out in the open, depending on the type of zoning, there may be some issues, but the question, it would be yes, just need to look at the rules for that piece of property.
Indeed.
What else?
How are you? Wants to hear more murder stories?
I'll send you back to my videos. Go, if you're on our channel, or go to our channel after this and look at all the videos. And I've done a couple around Halloween that talk about, the stories I mentioned earlier and how it affected everything.
Hello from Central Florida. Is it possible to purchase 10 to 20 acres with newer homes for $600K? What qualifies for ag exemption? To qualify for ag exemption, are you required to run a commercial operation?
No. I'm answering the last part of the question. No, you're not required to run a commercial operation. It just you can't obviously develop it. It needs to be, pasture land or whatever. And what a lot of people do is they'll, like, if they have, 20 acres, they'll split off, 1 acre where their house is and then have the other as, farmland. So, let's see. Is it possible to purchase 10, 20 acres with a newer home for $600K? Not in our part of the state right now. But there are parts of Montana where you can do that. So there you go. If you want the link to our MLS to search, you can, look at the banner down below and we will send you the link and you can see our prices around here. But 10 to 20 acres with a newer home is going to be much higher than $600,000. That's what I know. What do we have next?
Indeed, we got G-Dub is moving here this week from California. So welcome to Montana. And then he said that he heard that everybody in Whitefish is tricky, but it's not true.
Hillary lives in Whitefish. She's nice.
I am indeed. Is Will's
the backdrop is peaceful.
Will couldn't wait to share that one. I was going to share this, just asking if you have balloon footage for your next video.
We do. As a matter of fact, I'll give you that little tease and that's it. Yes, this weekend's video will be good. What else do you have for us? That's it? Have we hit the bottom already?
We are at the bottom.
Look at that, only 40 minutes in. Well, we can end early, I guess. If you guys have anything else, ask quickly or we'll shut her down. Hillary needs a nap with all the skiing she did.
I was really tired today. I don't know. It's just a Sunday thing, I guess.
Here's a good question. Do you sell hats? I plan on it. I need to order more because I kind of gave out the ones I had. I'm out. I have 2 left in my closet. Here's one for you, Hillary.
He's sleeping under a lot of blankets on the couch. He is the best. Guys, follow us on Instagram and I'll just start posting more obese wiener dog content. Also, I just want everybody to know, I know that nobody really cares about my dog, so thank you, Elizabeth, for humoring me. But somebody made a comment about how fat he was, and I just don't want people to think that I'm like abusive. He's been on a diet since we got him. Like the vet knows about his diet. He eats certain food. He eats a small amount of it. I take him for a walk all the time. Like I'm not just letting him be unhealthy. I love him.
When is your wife thinking about joining the video? She'll get a kick out of this question, Rocky Mountain Guy.
Oh my gosh.
Wants nothing to do with the videos because she's worried that people are going to rip on her and make mean comments. And
she doesn't want to be bullied.
Yeah. Because I'm a hockey referee, I've heard it all. So anything people tell me that, is mean, it goes, I don't care. But it bothers her. And that's why you have Hillary on here, because she too is not bothered. So
not that anybody's mean.
This is true. Yes, we've had very few trolls. I guess the biggest troll was about Hillary's dog last week. Hillary was all bummed out about that.
I really was. He's so good and cute.
Well, I mentioned to Hillary that maybe her dog wouldn't have a weight problem if she actually took it for a walk and didn't walk it in a stroller.
Well, we do, but you guys, our sidewalks are just covered in ice, like covered. And his legs are like this long, so he walks outside for a little bit, but he gets way too cold, and so he'll like walk down the street. But I feel bad for him, like he needs some stimulations. Then when he gets too cold, I just put him there. I don't know. He was a rescue, so we think he's like 10, but I've been saying that for like 3 years. So we don't really know. They do. They're the weirdest dogs. They're so funny. They burrow.
Yeah, maybe Hillary should start her own YouTube channel about wiener dogs.
Wow, that is a great idea.
There you go.
What was the wind chill this past week? Do you know?
It didn't seem all that bad. It was way colder. When was that, in January or the end of December, I guess, when we had that?
Yeah, which is funny because we have had a few really clear days with like blue skies and it's been really pretty and enjoyable. But a lot of times when we get that, it means there's cold that comes with it. And it really has not been bad at all this week. It was kind of a pleasant surprise for all the winter carnival stuff, just that it wasn't freezing.
See, look at all these dog comments. I'm telling you, you should have your own channel about your dog.
He's so weird.
Or maybe you could use this channel and do your own live video without me, which I'm sure a lot of people would like, and you could just talk about your dog.
We could just have it be a dog party. Here's a good one. My wedding date is June 10th, and Will is officiating my wedding. We've talked about that before on here as a joke, but it's actually happening. And yes, I will keep doing these. I want to get him boots, but his paws are like a little deformed. They're not, but they're just so long, So I got to find normal or larger sized ones.
We need to change the name of this video to, Wiener Dog Weekly.
I should get him. No, you guys, the funniest story ever is I went once to buy him a backpack because I wanted to put him in a backpack on my back and bring him to like the farmer's market and stuff. And so I went to Tail Waggers, which is a little dog store down on Central Ave, and I bought a dog backpack. But when I got it home, I realized it was a backpack for him to wear. So this was for like intense outdoor dogs who like go on hikes with their owners. And it was hilarious, but I got a picture of him in it. I'll have to find it and share it with you all because I think you would enjoy it.
All right, here's a real question. Any land size requirement for ag exemption? I'm sure there is, Joe. I'm sorry, but I have not dealt with that recently, so I'd have to recheck. And I can Google it. If you want to send me an email, I can send you all the information on that. So I apologize, I don't have more info on that. Then we got more dog questions, and then we have this one.
Oh.
I think we're both hitting the button at the same time.
Well, I was going to pick a different one.
Well, I was just going to answer this, and I'll let you get back to your dog stories.
Yes.
Can you ice fish on whitefish?
Yes.
Yes, but you have to be very careful because a lot of times it doesn't freeze all the way across, and out in the middle it's still open water. So you just need to be careful, and it depends on the winter. This year, Hillary was out there yesterday getting footage of the people jumping in the lake for winter carnival. They cut a hole in the ice and people
jump in.
Yeah, they jump in and freeze their butts off. And
yeah, there were lots of little holes and people had tents set up. It's definitely frozen right now. Probably not in the very middle, but yes, you can ice fish there.
All right, you can go back to your, here we go. This is a good one. A hockey story. The quick story is that normally in these tournaments, it's beer league hockey. It's not, they're not playing for the Stanley Cup, but for whatever reason, there was a lot of irritated people this year. And there was actually basically a bench clearing brawl at the end of a game yesterday that I got to get right in the middle of as the ref. So fun times. That's my hockey story. Now we can go back to your dog.
Oh, Will. Nothing. I'm so sorry, Elizabeth. 18. That is really old. I really hope that Oscar lives until he's 18. I think he will.
You just need to get him out exercising. Get him out of the stroller.
And his sled dog booties. I know it's really sad when he has to go, like he doesn't want to go potty outside or anything, but I can't blame him because he's just so small.
I'll let Hillary answer this. She goes out to eat just about every night.
That's not true, but in Big Fork, I actually don't know what the best Big Fork restaurants are. I've been to the sushi place out there. Where did we have our Christmas party, Will? What was that called?
Oh, that was at the golf course. I forget the name of it. It's in the clubhouse, but there's a name for that restaurant. And I forget
Schaefer's.
the name of it, but what is it?
Schaefer's?
Yeah, I think you're right. It's in the clubhouse of the golf course.
People like that place, that's kind of a fancy, I think, restaurant. So not super familiar with everything down there, but as far as whitefish goes, that's where I always eat. My favorite restaurant here is Abruzzo. People like the golf course here. That's another kind of fun place to go for a special occasion. Tupelo is good. We've got a lot of our restaurants are good. We just don't have a million of them.
Yes.
Going back to Big Fork, are there many homes that come up for sale over there? Yes, definitely. Big Fork's a really popular area. I mean, just because I said that it gets a little bit quieter in winter, stuff definitely goes for sale there. We were just out there looking at stuff. So yes.
Going from Marion to Kalispell, how well do they clear Highway 2? They clear it the best they can. I don't like driving that in the winter. It can get a little sketchy as far as being icy, and it's just 2-lane. And
I think that's what freaks me out.
Yeah, there's some areas like right before you get up to Marion, those corners there where you got the rock face on the one side and then it kind of drops off on the left. And I'm not a big fan of that in the winter. But they, it's obviously drivable. The problem, which is usually always the problem, is that there's people that go way too fast when the roads are bad. And that's what caused all the problems. If you just slow down and drive to the conditions, it's, they clear them fine. It's just the people that think they can still go 75 when there's ice all over. So,
yeah.
Where are we? There we go. How much does land adjoining national forest affect the price? It definitely affects the price and makes the price higher, just because that's a pretty good feature to have, that that nothing's ever going to be built behind you. And people like the fact that they can walk out their back property and access all of the roads or all of the logging roads and trails and whatever else, depending on where you are on the national forest, is back there. So yes, those are definitely, we get that request all the time, that people want to back up to the national forest. And for that reason, we sold a lot. That lot that we sold in, why did I just draw a blank? I guess it's actually Martin City in Glacier Hills there, backed up to national forest. So
yeah, definitely a popular feature.
Yeah, I was clearing everyone out. Let's see. Lisa, love your channel. Visiting first week of May, hoping to find a retirement cabin in your neck of the woods. Yeah, they're out here. We'd be happy to help. Look us up when you're in town, and we'd be happy to meet up with you.
Yes.
I'll let you answer this, Hillary.
Because we don't live there.
Eastern Montana, it's totally different than our side of the state, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just different. It's like where Hillary grew up in Nebraska. There's just nothing out there. I mean, it's flat, wide open. It gets a lot colder, but there's people that like that. And one of the bonuses that, people that want to get away from crowds, there's your spot. So, let's see. When's your next video that focuses on lakefront properties? I really enjoy those. Hoping to have someone. I usually do those in the summer for obvious reasons, so I can go down by the water and, those properties are more in demand in the summertime, as you can imagine.
Indeed.
Here's a question.
You could go out on the lake right now, though, because it's frozen, and show the houses from the lake.
Well, I'll have you do that. You can walk around out there and get the footage, and I'll put it on my video. Okay.
Is huckleberry ice cream any good? I mean, I think so. Yes.
Is short-term seller financing becoming an offer that may be considered in this market? Yeah, if the seller can afford to do it. Unfortunately, a lot of people just need to get out, whether they're moving or buying a different place or whatever. Not everybody can do that. But yeah, if you can find a deal like that, that is a good thing, but it's obviously up to the seller. Let's see. Joe, I was stationed at Minot Air Force Base when I was young. I know what cold is from that experience. When you get east of the mountains, guessing it's similar as Minot. Yeah, I mean, basically from 70 miles to the east of us, when you get over the mountains to, I always joke that when you come over that, when you're heading east and you get over the mountains, you can see the lights of Minneapolis because there's really nothing in the way. And it's just wide open, flat, and it does get cold, and it's all very similar weather from basically Great Falls to, Minneapolis or Winnipeg. So yeah, it's all the same over there. Would you do a video and talk about the National Forest, State Parks, BLM, the various types of public lands, what you can do on each? That's a good idea. I will do that. I'll mark it down. Because after 2.5 years almost.
I was going to say, thank you for giving him an idea.
Hillary's sick of me complaining about what am I going to talk about next week, because believe it or not, I'm running out of things to talk about. Let's see.
That is shocking to many of you, I'm sure.
Is residency difficult to obtain in Montana, or is it like other states, spend a couple of months, have a job? Yep, I'm pretty sure. I don't know the rules in other states, but I don't know that ours is any harder than any other state. So I know a lot of people will buy something here and then get their cars licensed here because we're pretty cheap in comparison to states that people are coming from. And if they have a house, if they just have a summer house here or a ski house, whatever, they use that as, to register their vehicles to save money. So anyway, we're back at the bottom again of the question. So thank you, everybody. And we are almost at an hour, so perfect timing. Thanks for tuning in. We will be back in a couple weeks again with another one of these. And like I said, be on the lookout if you're getting a link for the new opt-in form that you're going to have to do to keep your alerts going. And then feel free, if you don't have a link, to email us. And also, if you want a copy of that homesteading document that I showed earlier in the video. So
yes.
Good night.
Good night.